escalation.
Well, let's now take a closer look at an incident that took place in the Strait of Hormuz involving an Indian tanker. On the 18th of April 2026, two Indian-flagged vessels, the VLCC supertanker Sanmar Herald and the bulk carrier Jag Arnav, came under fire from Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC gunboats in the Strait of Hormuz. The incident occurred just one day after Iran had declared the strait completely open for commercial traffic during a fragile Lebanese ceasefire. The Sanmar Herald, carrying nearly 2 million barrels of Iraqi crude oil bound for India, was directly approached by IRGC gunboats. Leaked VHF radio audio captured the tense moments as the captain urgently pleaded, "You gave me clearance. You're firing now. Let me turn back." Let's take a listen.
Sepa Navy. This is Motor Tanker Sanmar Herald. You gave me clearance to go. My name second on your list. You gave me clearance to go. You are firing now. Let me turn back.
No serious damage or injuries were reported, but the vessel was forced to make an immediate U-turn. The Jag Arnav, carrying urea, was also in the vicinity and reported being targeted or forced to retreat. The attacks came as Iran reimposed strict control over the strait in response to an ongoing US naval blockade on Iranian ports. IRGC forces warned vessels that approaching the strait would be seen as cooperation with the enemy. India reacted swiftly. The Ministry of External Affairs summoned Iranian Ambassador Mohammad Fatali and conveyed deep concern. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri lodged a strong diplomatic protest urging safe passage for Indian vessels. The episode highlights India's vulnerability. Over 50% of its crude oil imports transit through Hormuz, with crews safe but tension still high. The incident has triggered fresh worries over energy security and maritime risks in one of the world's most critical choke points. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us at this point in time is Mr. Rabindra Sachdev, Foreign Affairs expert. Major General G.G. Dwivedi, Defense and Geopolitical expert, is also joining us on the broadcast to talk more about this. General Dwivedi, I'll begin with you, sir. This is confusing. This is obfuscating. On one hand, Iran declares that the strait is open and ready for business. On the other, it targets an Indian vessel, of which some of them were also allowed when the war was at its peak. India still managed to get some vessels across when the tensions were extremely high. They are not as high as that. Why is Iran beginning to sound and behave more like Donald Trump? Incomprehensible.
Well, firstly, Vineet, always a pleasure to be on your show. Well, right now, if you see the situation in the Gulf region, especially if it comes to Strait of Hormuz, is very unstable, tense, and of course very confusing, because there are different forces which are at play. Firstly, we need, once the ceasefire is now almost just another 2 days, and when the talks collapsed, it was obvious that it will have a fallout. One fallout will be that both sides will be posturing and putting pressure, and second is that the ace of spades, which is in the hands of Iranians, they will like to play the card again. So therefore, what is happening now is that at one hand, while the political leadership of Iran is giving signals that they are willing to open the Strait of Hormuz and this traffic will resume anytime. In fact, they said that traffic is almost normal now, only yesterday, and now there is another event that has developed, and this is because the IRGC is taking a hard line. So there is a dichotomy within the Iranian dispensation, because while the government wants to go and go forward, but the hardliners are actually holding it back. The second point is how far is the Strait of Hormuz open? Well, there is a control now being exercised by the IRGC naval elements, and they were allowing selectively the ships to pass through. But the episode you shared, as far as the Indian two vessels are concerned, one was of course very large crude carrying vessel, is that they are now not agreeing or not willing to let the Strait of Hormuz be any more navigable or open to commercial shipping. The second point is that Indian, of course, response is as per the diplomatic norms or protocols. We have protested, we have lodged a protest, and we expressed our displeasure, but then that's where the diplomacy ends. Now the point is, where do we go from here? There are a couple of issues. One is, will the ceasefire be extended? A big question mark. Will the talks one-on-one, face-to-face resume? Again, a question mark, because a lot of parleys behind the scene are being undertaken, especially driven by Pakistan. So the point is, Strait of Hormuz has emerged a center of gravity. This is actually having a global impact, because other issue which was sticking point was the nuclear issue. Well, that only impacts the Americans or the Iranians or the Israelis. But as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, it has a global impact. So therefore, this remains a bone of contention. This remains the trump card in the hand of Iranians. And until Iranians feel that Americans are going to be reasonable, not maximalist, I think they will continue to hold the Strait of Hormuz at ransom, or what we call weaponizing the international water. My last point is, well, legally this is not sustainable. It's international water. It doesn't have the same status as Suez Canal, which passes through Egyptian territory, or even, let's say, when you talk of Strait of Malacca, that is just 1.5 knots wide, but still it is international water. Here, Strait of Hormuz is almost 21 knots wide, and therefore Iranians cannot claim that they have any legal status. So, Vineet, I leave it at that.
Fair enough, sir. That's an important perspective that you have lent to me and our viewers as well. Mr. Sachdev, what do you think is going on at this point in time? Donald Trump, of course, went on a rant again on Truth Social, saying that he's not going to play Mr. Nice Guy anymore. And this is a statement which comes after saying that he's ready to wipe out a civilization.
Thank you, Vinith. Always a pleasure with you. You're one of the finest moderators and discussants. Okay, now, we're talking about Strait of Hormuz as one, whatever. I put out an illustration cartoon, you could call it maybe, some time ago, when I said that on 9th of April 2026, a new super weapon is born, the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm naming this super weapon as the Hormuzian Claw. Before the war, it was said, oftentimes expected that, maybe Iran could block out the Strait of Hormuz, but nobody thought it was in the realm of the possible. When the Iranians imposed a blockade, it worked. And despite the firepower and all the diplomatic power and horsepower, punch power of the Americans and American army and associated worldwide condemnations, the super weapon has been battle tested and it has come out intact. It is a super weapon now. So therefore, going forward, as General Dwivedi also says, I would assume that years and years down the line, Iran would absolutely want to keep this super weapon. This super weapon, I think, is bigger than the nuclear weapon, in fact, even. Because Iran can simply dial it up or dial it down. And it does not take much. Iran doesn't need much navy and all. It has on the coastal areas, the fast boats maybe, the sea mines which are there, the low-flying drones are there, short distance, 1 or 2 damage, and boom, the strait is closed. And the strait is closed due to very clear cold factors. No maritime insurance. No insurance will back the ship itself, nor the cargo with it, nor the cargo going into a war zone. So this is a super weapon. And therefore, in the overall discussions which are happening right now with respect to the deal and all, or a ceasefire, whatever comes out of it, I'll come to that in a moment. But the Iranians will not want to give up the fact that they can exert control or sovereignty. In fact, they wanted to declare their sovereignty over it, to which everyone is protesting, very rightfully so. But if you are from an Iranian viewpoint, I think you will never ever leave this weapon again. If I'm an Iranian, right? From your strategic points of view. So let's say where it goes, the best compromise therein could be at least would be that no tolls to be paid. Because right now, one of the mechanisms is that, and that leads into this whole triage of the economic, calculus. Iran wants, if not reparations, but compensation, etc., to be part of the deal. Now, there are only three pockets of where the money could be generated. One could be, yes, there are frozen funds or blocked funds of Iran outside in Qatar and US, unblock some of them. The American funds, I doubt they will ever unblock because Trump has been blaming Obama for sending plane loads of big, beautiful dollar bills. So Americans won't, but maybe the money in Qatar can be unblocked. So one is the blocked money. The second is the sanctions. If the sanctions are removed, yeah, Iran gets some economic, oxygen. And the third is toll on the Hormuz. So in between these three, where would uh, where would the situation rest equilibrium? So that's economy part of it. In terms, if there is an overall ceasefire deal. Now, so therefore, Hormuz, I would absolutely expect them to keep so that, even if they do not declare anything, it's a fact now known. Even if they don't declare sovereignty over it, it is now known to the Gulf countries, especially, and to the world, that anytime Iran can dial up or dial down and block the straits. Now, coming as to what Trump wants, to my understanding,
Okay.
and I think to
All right,
all of
Mr.
us,
Mr. Mr. Mr.
sure.
Mr. Sisde, we have more ground to cover. We'll have to be a little brief. We are getting to know that, as we just saw, Iran has gone back to shutting down and heightening the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz by going after civilian merchant vessels. Earlier, Iran said that the Strait of Hormuz is closed and no second talks will now take place. However, now we get confirmation from Trump himself that delegates will be in Islamabad tomorrow for round 2 of negotiations. Trump also made a jibe at Iran's announcement of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, saying